Hey, what's going on? My name is Eric and I'm a professional mixing engineer, and I wanted to show you how I mixed this Deathcore song. Got it sounding kind of like this. Yeah. So let's start with the drums here. All right, running through this, we ended up recording a trigger sound that I didn't like, so I scrapped that and just plugged in the MIDI because that's I got a much better kick sound that I wanted, and then from there, here's what the MIDI sounded like. Whoops, there we go. And this was a dry. Cool, so I wanted to tighten that up. So here's my EQ and what I ended up doing with that. Kind of, bumping that little low end hit, taking some of that 200 out, some of that 600. Yeah, much nicer. From there, hitting it really hard with a 76. Cool. And then I took that and then I bounced that into an actual audio rather than MIDI. I bounced it with the plugins on, so there was, all that processing was actually on there. So from there, I have the same sound. Cool. Ended up throwing a Pultec on there just to get a little more of that low end beef. And then one of my favorite saturators, which is the Magma, to do that. Just a little bit more gnarly in there. I really like this one. I like this bass relief. This bass relief is really cool. Cool. Let's go to the snare. So the real snare drum, I wasn't relying too heavily on. Obviously, it's a triggered sound that I'm really relying on just so those snare drums are absolutely massive. But we did track a real snare. Here's what that sounds like. Oh, yeah. Just ping. I gated it. I threw a little bit of Saturn on there. This one is super subtle and light. From there, EQing super heavily. I brought up some of that sizzle just because I wasn't using a bottom snare and I just wanted a little bit more sizzle in there. Took out a little bit of that ring. This. Whoop. And then beefed up the low end just a bit. From there, compressing it really hard. The tough thing about live drums is when you're compressing, you're usually just bringing the cymbals up too. That's why I kind of, in a deathcore track like this, I really like relying on some of the samples and other cool little production techniques that you can do. And then after compressing, I threw it into the Magma again. Just give it a little bit of grit. Yep, really liked what that did. And I threw a little bit of that snare reverb on here, which was the little plate. Sweet. Now for the heavy lifting with the drums, or with the snare drum in particular, is this trigger. So we'll just listen to what it sounds like all together. All right, cool. The trigger that I used was a Bell Brass Close, which I believe was from Trondheim. I think Bell Brass. Yep, that sounds right. Bell Brass from Trondheim. I really like Trondheim a lot. They made some really cool snare samples. So let's just listen to that by itself. Oops. Threw some EQ on there. Not much. A little bit of that 325 out, just kind of boosted the snap on that, just to cut through those guitars. Compress this one pretty hard. The Bluey in the 76 just really saturates it super nice. I really like that a lot. And then, of course, through the Magma, just a little bit more dirt and grit and snap. Nice. A little bit of snare reverb. Give it that stereo width. And then there's a snare bomb reverb that I like a lot from the Pro R that I kind of made to do that. Wonderful. All right, let's go to the high tom here. This one, I wasn't thrilled with the sound of just the raw tom. That's this. Oh, yeah. Yep. So gating it regardless, taking it, EQing it like crazy. Compressing it, of course, 76. And then a transient designer to do what I possibly could with that one. A little bit of that snare verb. But then, of course, blending it with this. Yeah, that's a sick tom sound. And then from there, we'll go to the low tom. Yep, here we go. Dry. Really didn't like that one too much either. Gate it again. Pro Q3. Cool. Slam it again. And then a transient designer. I'm actually not hitting that hit too hard with the compressor. That probably hits. Yep, not too bad. And then a little bit of that snare verb again. Sweet. And then, of course, the trigger sound. Yep. I really like using samples because you can compress the snot out of them and not have to worry about bleed. It's really nice. Okay, move to the overheads here. This was before. After. Taking a lot of that. Taking that out of there. Compressing. And then soothe. All right, so this is just EQ'd. That's compressed. Not doing a ton. And then soothe, which I like soothe a lot. Did do a hi-hat spot mic, which was this. A lot of low-end rumble stuff going on there, so took everything out underneath 230. Compressed again. Not super hard. And then soothe again. I typically don't like over compressing my overheads just because it usually runs through buses and then the master, and then a lot of times I find when I compress my overheads too much in the beginning, then at the end it just gets like egregious. And we'll go to my ride mic. There was a blast beat section here. We'll take a listen to that. Cool. Here's the ride dry. EQ'd. Taking out some of that again. So anything below 160, don't need it. Taking this out. And then that bell was super bright. So just dropping that a little bit. API again. Press of this one is like this. And again, soothe. Soothe pretty hard. And then there's a China spot mic. We'll go to a China part. Oh, yeah. Again, taking all that low end that I don't really want out of there, and then just a little bit of that, like 4K, basically. And then API, compressing it. Sweet. Like I mentioned, my room mics were pretty close, and I don't rely too heavily on them in this mix, but I had a stereo pair that I bounced to just a left-right here, I think. Yep, just a left-right here. I'll go to the beginning again, take a listen to that without processing. Yeah, and it's really so low within the drum mix here that it wasn't relied on too much. I'll take it in and out. Just kind of did a little bit of a thing, almost like a parallel thing going on. Cool. So this is that's all the individual mics, and then all of those are run into one drum bus. This drum bus goes into a G comp. Not hit super hard at all. Into this distressor, of course, kind of run in a dry, wet, blended thing. Take it out. I really like what that parallel does to snare drums. It sounds awesome. And then into a JST clipper. This is before. After. Yeah. Cool. So we'll take a listen to the drums before I did anything to it. And then after. Oh, yeah. All right, cool. Let's move over to bass. All right. So this track is in drop E. So we ended up tracking the bass here with a 4-string bass, where the bottom was tuned to E, but then the top strings are actually tuned higher. So it played like drop D in terms of intervals. That sounded like this. Sweet. So from here, I'm bringing up some of the high end with this 73, and then really scooping out 700. And then all the heavy lifting is done by Parallax. A little bit of EQ after that. Kind of bringing up that nastiness. Throwing on R bass, which I typically don't do on bass, but since the guitars were kind of doing a lot of this like low E stuff, I'm trying to get this as like sub frequencies to get even like lower than E. So here's before. That's a subtle one. Not going to hear that too much if you're on a phone or something. But then Soothe, which I'm using as a side chain. So this one's really cool. I'm side chaining this to the kick here. Let me make this smaller. Side chaining this to my kick. And then what's happening is all that low end is getting ducked out by this. Take it off. Oh, yeah. Yeah, really tightening up the low end and making sure that that kick drum is just like punching through. Yeah, that's a really cool move, using Soothe for some side chaining stuff. Okay, let's listen to the drums and the bass together. Sweet. All right, moving on to some guitar work. The guitars are really cool in this record. I loved tracking this. This was done with an Axe Effects with a very specific tone built. So let's just kind of listen to what they are right now. I'm gonna go to a chuggy part. Okay, cool. Take the processing off here. Okay, so with this, I mic'd up a orange 4x12. It was the straight cab with a 57 and got this sound. Which needed a little bit of love, but there was something in there that I really enjoyed. So coming over here, a lot of that low end was just building up and getting way too much. But this kind of did this like 2K thing, sort of. Let's see. Or 1K. Yeah, this 1K thing that just like sounded so aggressive in that, and I really enjoyed it a lot. But I knew it wasn't enough. So that was just the 57, and then I tracked a DI tone with it. And then that I threw into the Fortin. Started with this smacky high gain, but then ended up kind of tweaking it myself. And that one solo sounds like this. Which is cool, but when you bring in the other one, I think there's a really cool character like that you don't really hear a whole lot. So that was the same for the right side. So that went in like this. Cool, and then I got some bus compression, or excuse me, I do have bus compression, but some bus stuff going on here. EQ, taking out some of that super low stuff. Any of that crazy rumble. A little bit here. I have a Pro MB on here. That's taken out some of those low chugs, just like punching through too hard. Soothe again, because I love Soothe. Which this does a ton of heavy lifting. I absolutely love Soothe. That's tight. And then into a 3A. Just like 3dB, not a whole lot. I absolutely love the character that we got on these rhythm guitars. I think they sound really cool. Later on in the song, there was this lo-fi part. Play that for you. Cool. Those little lo-fi sections that are all throughout this album. Same thing. Took the Fort Nameless on the DI. Took the same EQ on the 57. This one, though, I started with the phone preset, but then usually 800 is cranked, and I didn't love that. So I just kind of brought that down. Soothe again, and then the same 3A kind of thing, but without that that Pro Q in the beginning. With it. Yep, just to get a lo-fi thing going on. All right, cool. So let's go to some of these leads. I'll go to the distorted lead first. This one I just called, it was like a lead-ish. It was like kind of like a lead. Same deal. Taking that Fortin, taking this again. This was a little different on the EQ just for the 57. Oh my gosh, you can really hear that ringing. That needed to go. Don't know why that even happened, but that needed to go. Some crazy EQ for the bus. Oh yeah, tightening that up a lot, and then running into a G comp. Cool. Listen to it all together. I say lead-ish because it kind of really wasn't meant for a lead. It's just sort of sitting in the middle there and just kind of like filling out space a little bit. Cool. So then we'll go back to the intro. The intro, I love this tone. Again, all the tones on this record were so cool. So this. Okay, cool. So this was actually, I originally mic'd up that orange with a 57 and a KSM 313. Figured out that the 313 didn't really do what I wanted it to do on the heavy rhythms, but I enjoyed what it did on these cleans. So just kind of bringing out 5K a little bit on that 57. This is the 57 alone. Okay, here's the 313. Just anything under 70, killing it. Cool. And then these both went into another EQ, taking out all of everything under 200. And then that was more than likely an accident and isn't doing anything. Yeah, absolutely. That into a 3A, like the 3A on guitars, and then the Pan Man to do that back and forth thing that you're hearing. Okay, sweet. Let's move on to vocals. All right. So for the main vocal, we doubled everything. Sometimes it was an exact double, sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes there is a third little thing going on here, but here's what the vocals sound like processed and in the mix. Cool. Here's what they sound like processed by themselves. Okay, there's a whole lot going on here that I didn't end up using. So let's listen to just one of these dry. Okay. Where to begin with this? Some of that 500, getting rid of that. Compressing the snot out of it multiple times. Just, you know, the fastest attack you can get. Fastest release, doing that again with a 2A. Just leveling it out like crazy. Throwing out a de-esser. Distorting it with the magma. There's a lot of aggression in this one. I just love this one so much. And then a little bit of reverb going on. A lot of it. Sorry. For space. That is then run into the Scream bus, which has, again, some of that low end just dipped out. Run into a G comp. And then another reverb for more space. I just kind of like what that did. And then over here, here's where that high end came in. Let's just kind of blend it in. Here's what that sounds like dry. Screams are so funny. I love it. And then we'll go to some of the little production elements before kind of wrapping this up. Absolutely love this little anvil sound going on. Just because. Of course, bass drops. You have to do it. There's a Rise hit that I use, which was from Native Instruments. Rise hit. Just to sort of give a nice little swell into some of the hits. There's Damage. Damage is another Native Instruments thing that's really cool. Just to create some big impacts. Then there was a reverse bass here. Cool. And that's basically the entire mix. Not a ton going on, but it came together so nice. So we'll just play this from the start to the finish and you get to listen to it. That clean tone is so cool. I love that track. I think this is a really cool sound. I really like the way that this came together. If you like the long form, please let me know. If you're looking for more mix breakdowns and getting ideas of what you could do, I would love to talk and I would love to make more of these. If you're ever looking to make your track sound really massive, let me know. We'll talk. Thanks for watching.